So our featured speaker today is Jessica Matlock, who is the first woman CEO of Plata Electric. And you're like, Plata Electric, what's that? Well, when the power goes out in Texas, you wonder who your power utility is. Jessica is an incredible leader, and one of the things that she has done is help bring Plata Electric into a very sustainable future for electricity in our region. And given the number of folks in this group that study environmental science, we think that was a really important thing to talk about. She's led in various issues in government, she's worked in other states, and she's here. And so we thought she'd just be a great opportunity to think a little bit about where you are right now and what the future looks like. And so Jessica, we are thrilled to have you. Thank you for being here.
All right, thank you. No pressure to go fast or anything. So thank you for having me. It's really exciting to see all of you. I remember that day, graduation. I was mostly pleased that I no longer had to write papers and go to class. Again, sorry, but that was that. All right. So when I thought of who and what has inspired me the most, it was hearing about other people's stories and how to persevere. This is even more important to me now that we are approaching our third year of COVID. Who would have thought? I never thought that when I became a CEO, that 9 months later, my world would dramatically change, as well as all of yours. So I'm going to share my life and the lessons I have learned with all of you, and where I plan to go in the future. I grew up on a ranch on the Front Range of Colorado, where, to no surprise, growing up on a ranch, I learned many life lessons and the value of hard work. Rising with the roosters, cleaning horse stalls, feeding livestock, and yes, chasing turkeys. That was my animal. While I loved growing up on a ranch and the hard work it entailed, I wanted something different in life. To put it simply, I wanted to be a combat fighter pilot. My parents weren't too happy about that. Unfortunately for me, the Department of Defense gave preference to those individuals with a Y chromosome and more testosterone. So what was a girl from Colorado supposed to overcome that? Well, naturally, with all the ocean in Colorado, I did the next logical thing. I joined the U.S. Coast Guard. And I went to the U.S. Coast Guard Academy. Since the Coast Guard was not a part of the Department of Defense, I could fly any mission, any aircraft, and also be a part of a greater mission of saving lives and protecting the environment. Life, school, and the Coast Guard was great. On day one, you are prepared to lead as an officer, integrating with active duty every summer. Learning to conduct, and actually they made me the dummy often, in rescue swimming operations, high seas fishery enforcement, interdictions, navigation, weaponry, where I did become an expert marksman, and a little taste of flying C-130s over Alaska. Again, life was great. I was living my dream. However, as life will surely show you, and how you've already experienced, my best laid plans went out the door because I went through the flight physical and my eyesight was not good enough to be a pilot. I felt like my life was crushed, my plans and dreams ripped out from right under me. I was lost, I was scared, and I was uncertain of the future. With this new uncertain future, I did what most people do. I actually returned home to my family in Colorado to reset and reevaluate my future, which ultimately led to where I am today. When returning home, I eventually walked through whatever door opened for me. And as graduates, you are going to find that things will open. Take that door, whatever it is. I became a GIS mapping expert in Mesa County in Grand Junction, and then eventually moved to Seattle to finish my undergraduate degree in chemical oceanography. Far from flight school, I worked at a coffee shop, I took temporary secretary jobs, and then I worked at a receptionist for an environmental consulting firm. No doubt I had been humbled. Once with visions of flying multi-million-dollar aircraft, now here I was answering telephones. But I kept walking through doors, I stayed curious, and I took risks. One of those early risks was asking if I could get involved with environmental project work, even though I was a receptionist. And it worked. they gave me a chance. And this led me on the path of becoming an environmental scientist. Within a short period of time, I would soon become an environmental city planner for the city of Portland, and then a fish and wildlife manager for one of the largest energy companies on the West Coast. And this is where I learned the value of importance of partnering with local tribes to create sustainable fish and wildlife habitats. Somehow, some way, this led me to Washington, D.C. So I worked in Washington, D.C. for the Department of Energy, and then a fellow for a United States senator, where as an electric expert, I was responsible for working on Energy Policy Act of 2006, which has shaped energy policy for the United States. Working on this massive piece of legislation further introduced me to the world of renewable energy. After the Energy Policy Act was signed into law by the President, I was fortunate to have been recruited by one of the largest public utilities in the U.S., where I became their Policy and Government Affairs Director. As I had learned before, I applied humility, curiosity, and perseverance to this new position. And by applying these life lessons, I eventually rose to the ranks to lead a large component of the company, ultimately being responsible for planning and designing the future of power supply. This is where I learned that development of renewables could and should be developed in partnership with the community, and with the community's goals and objectives in mind. I quickly learned that we could create multi-purpose projects that not only develop clean energy, but that also help communities lower their energy bills, a win-win. Without whirlwind tour from a ranch to a wannabe combat pilot to a humbled receptionist to working in the U.S. Senate and then for a very large public utility, I now have the privilege of being here with my family and serving all of you as CEO of LPEA. So what can I tell you about the future of La Plata Electric Association? Where yes, the lights are on today, I'm very thankful. We've had a lot of storms lately. I'm excited to say that LPA is headed towards a new energy future, a future that people a couple years ago had not imagined. Specifically, we are on the verge of seeing our community benefit from a transition to clean energy. This includes the benefits of lowering our carbon footprints, lowering how much we pay for energy, increasing dollars coming back to our community, creating jobs, which I hope some of you would keep in mind at La Plata, and the list goes on. This energy future gives us an opportunity to partner with our community to create dual-purpose projects. For example, I recently learned that some of our farmers are hurting from higher prices and potentially losing their lands. This new arrangement with our power supplier would allow La Plata Electric to partner with our farmers and build solar panels on their fields. The farmers would supplement their income by leasing the land to LPEA and be able to continue to grow and harvest their crops under the solar panels. Our region would benefit from this partnership by supporting the farmers, keeping our croplands, powering our lives with clean energy, and by creating a more resilient electric grid. Another win-win. However, please be keenly aware that there is no silver bullet in the energy world. We must maintain reliable power or we will fall into the traps and mistakes we have seen from California and Texas. And we prevent those mistakes by seeking out diversity of thought to create the best solutions for our beautiful region. When I started at LPA, we were faced with only two choices. We could stay in a 50-year contract with our largest power provider, whose energy mostly comes from coal. Or we could buy out of this expensive 50-year contract and go it alone. Those were the only two options. Nothing else was on the table. But as in life, and I'm hoping all of you keep this in mind, ask questions because there always has to be another option, a different door we could potentially walk through. So with diversity of thought, which included the minds of ranchers, farmers, utility executives, and business leaders, we collectively identified a new alternative. This was pursuing an option to buy half of our power from our current power provider while giving us the flexibility and more local control to develop the other half ourselves. The economic education, and energy benefits to our region would be enormous if we can collectively pull off this new option in our area. Fortunately, we have worked hard to secure a joint agreement with our current power supplier to pursue this new option, and that was really tough to do. We are now waiting legal rulings and approval from the federal government in Washington, D.C. What I have learned through this LPA process are many of the lessons I have encountered on my journey through life. You will all face adversity, despair, and great uncertainty. But if you continue to open your minds, be ever curious, look for opportunities, seek diversity of thought amongst your peers and your community, you will persevere. Your story, as our community's story, will change, and a new, perhaps unexpected path will open for you. In closing, I leave you with a short story from just a few weeks ago. I recently met with several regional leaders and CEOs to discuss the types of college graduates and employees they seek to hire. So pay attention. To a T, there are three main characteristics that they were seeking, and it was unanimous amongst all these CEOs: empathy, curiosity, and being resilient, and not withering at the first sign of conflict and adversity. Simply put, we are now a nation now full of diversity, and more importantly, a nation full of diversity of thought. And the only way that we can pull forward as a nation, as companies and communities, if our young and future leaders, all of you, can have the empathy to those around us, continue to dream and be curious, be resilient in the face of change and uncertainty, seek to find common ground and solutions with those you may initially disagree with, and continue to understand that your story will change and life will surely throw you a curveball that you must overcome. I believe in all of you. You are all a part of my community, all of our community, and we are really proud of you. Many congrats to you on your journey and this wonderful institution. So I'll leave you with be strong, do good, and believe. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you so much for those words about strength, resilience, empathy, curiosity. I think it's amazing to get a story at the end of your time here at Fort Lewis that's inspiring all of you graduates to know that new solutions are possible, because you'll be part of those new solutions. So thank you, Jessica.